Hello and welcome back to another episode of Beyond the Scenes. My name is Andres Cuervo and I open my house, my studio, to chat with my friends. We talk about life, we talk about things that we do beyond our skills in our careers. And I have the privilege of just being here with my friend Paul Nguyen. So,
Thanks for having me, man. I'm happy to be here. Yeah,
also Paul,
very new.
very new to being in front of the camera.
Yeah, like done it a couple of times, but never spoke.
Yeah.
I was like, oh, I love it though. It's great setup.
Yeah.
I love it a lot.
It's interesting because like you come here and the first thing you're introduced to like the chickens and the backyard and what else, and then you come here to the studio. That's like a split personality between the farmer and the filmmaker. But that's life.
Yeah, it's always dealing with like duality.
Yeah.
Kind of just like this. Carlos, like, I know you as a filmmaker. No, I'm actually like deep down, like I'm a farmer. You're like, what? You hold chickens and cameras?
The best mixture of both worlds is where they're running 4D, which is a chicken camera.
It is, and it's funny because I see how you handle lenses. It's how you handle eggs. It's like, just very precious.
Touche. Great, awesome. Paul, we work in a couple of projects, couple of productions. And one thing I connect with you a lot is, your freshness, your humor, very particular, very unique. You always bring kind of like a positive note, even in the midst of like very stressful productions and situations. When I attempt to be stressed, you're like, don't worry, I got you. And just kind of like ease out. And it's part of like your chillness, I bet you that's something you have worked on and doesn't come completely natural out of the box.
You're like the first person that ever like said that.
No way.
And like, but notice that like,
Okay.
hey, this seems like a learned skill, and I have to agree with that. It took me a minute to learn how to like relax and like breathe. I always say breathe through the motion, like breathe through it. Like, it's like working out. Like, don't be so tense.
Yeah.
Kind of just like breathe. We'll get through the rep as long as you finish.
Yeah.
Doesn't matter how you finish. Just cross that finish line, And every time I work on set is always just kind of like, we're gonna make the day. We're gonna get all the shots.
Yeah.
You just can't be stressed. Things happen. You lose the shot. Things break. You might say something you'll regret.
Yeah.
Like, and just knowing how to like breathe through the motion. Hey, like we're gonna get it. Like we're in this moment. It's a moment. It's not your end goal.
Yeah.
It's just a moment right now. So just knowing how to, it's okay.
Yeah.
You got this. Like, because I feel it too. We all feel it. So you just feel like if you could keep it together and keep it moving, then you're part of the team. And you feel like if one's unraveling and the next unravels, then everything falls apart. So just try to be my best, not to be the glue, but like just be a part of the team.
Yeah. And the other thing is, it seems there's something in the culture of our line of work and in our industry that if you look busy, and if you look like, then that guy's something. He's got stamina and he works. But if you look chill, it's like, eh. But there must be somewhere where you feel confident about your skill, but you don't feel overconfident to the sense that when something doesn't work, it paralyzes you.
Yeah.
Right? It's almost as if something doesn't happen according to plan, you still have the coolness to, rethink and be creative. And sometimes people hire us because of our skill, in terms of like the technical skill. But most often people hire us because of how we handle things creatively. And with that, I'm not talking about composing the shot or something. It's like the ideas that we can bring to problem solve, troubleshooting situations that happen on set. And as I was talking to one of my friends, many times you don't remember what the project really was about, or the conversations that happen or whatever, but you do remember how people make you feel or how you interact with others and how you make them feel. That's what stays with you. And I think part of bringing the stress and that makes people feel either comfortable or uncomfortable. And that's what stays with people at the end,
Yeah. And to add on to that, I really think we're in the business of, I'm the yeah, the business or in the field of creative solutions.
Mm.
It's like, like you said, like we compose this, we do this, people bring this on to make sure, like, can you make this look great? But I do it creatively, and we're solving a brand or someone's voice to get a point across, like their problem or something that they're passionate about. How do we get that message across? So we're kind of like doing it creatively in a very technical level, which is very interesting. So there's also that duality of tech and creative, right? It's interesting because talking to one of my other colleagues, we were also discussing, like, yes, it is high tension, but then you also have to be chill. Then what's the real purpose of you being on set, and kind of like, what do I need to do? Because, like, you don't want to be anyone's way, but you want to be helpful, but like you don't want to overstep anything. So like the biggest thing I always tell people is just like, there's a chain of command, so like follow that, know what that role asks for, but then like do a little bit more that's helpful for the team, not self-serving for you, so kind of like, how do I be of service,
Yep.
so like the problem solver,
Yep.
and I think being able to stand up and being like, hey, I already know what the situation is, and you're like 10 steps ahead, that's already being helpful. So like there's also that, like, be considerate to kind of knowing how to read the room. And that's like a big thing I've learned in this business, is just read the room.
Yep.
Read it fast.
Yeah.
So
It's interesting that when we were earlier here at my house, walking on my backyard, looking at the chickens and the quails, I asked you if you had interact with chickens, and you're like, dude, I'm chicken royalty here. Tell me a little bit about your chicken experience.
it's so funny. I'm not chicken royalty. Like, don't believe him. I've been around chickens a lot. So reel it back really quickly. My back here, I was born in California, lived there till like my vaguest memories as a kid. Like, I barely remember my first house, but like certain moments I remember.
What part of Cali?
San Bernardino, which is probably like a couple hours east of LA.
That's kind of preppy.
I don't know, because I can't remember.
That's Tantum. That's like, that's not South Side.
Yeah, it's lived there, and then we moved to Connecticut right after, so
Okay.
coast to coast. And we drove, so it was across country.
Wow.
Yeah, like packed up a Penske and
Yeah.
kept it moving, figuratively and literally. So we did there. We moved to Connecticut, and then my parents, they own nail salons, and then one day when I was in high school, my parents sat us all down and were like, "You're moving to Georgia," and I was like, "What? Like, what are you talking about? What is in Georgia?" And they were like, we bought a chicken farm. And I'm like, hold on, what? Like, I'm from the suburbs.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
like small towns. It's like, what am I gonna do in Georgia? And then and by the way, I'm also the youngest of four. So my eldest sister moved first. My sister and brother, they stayed in Connecticut, and then I moved down. And then blink of an eye, I'm like, chickens.
Wow.
Like a bunch of chickens. And we had like 8 deluxe chicken houses, like super big, super long,
Hundreds of birds.
thousands
Thousands
of birds. Like, and I'm not even trying to exaggerate that. Like, so the smell was very familiar.
Yeah.
Before it would ping me, I'm like, oh my God, get me out of here. But now I'm kind of like, I was like, oh yeah, this brings me back.
Yeah.
Yeah. So like, you just had experience of chickens, but it's funny. I didn't say this when we did it outside. That was the first time I held a chicken.
Wow. Interesting.
Yeah, I never held one of my chickens.
I mean, because in your case, we're not pets. They were just like a commercial.
It was work.
Yeah, it was work.
So like, I had like I never held chickens in that kind of way of like loving.
Yeah.
Like, oh, this is a pet. This is a being.
Has a name.
A name, and this is like someone else's, like, oh no, this is like part of my family.
Yeah.
Like, oh man, I never like experienced that. So, I don't know. It was nostalgic,
Hmm.
kind of coming back to chickens. I was like, oh my gosh, this is wow. Because my godfather also has chickens, but his chickens were they laid eggs.
Okay.
Yeah, so we had different chicken farms.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
You know, but he had a full on farm. He had like cows, he had pigs. Very like children's book kind of
Yeah.
chicken farm. Like, oh my god, you have the whole lineup. So
That's
it's
cool.
cool.
Now, was that a tradition that passed on through previous generations, like back where you guys are from, or was that something that just they just decided randomly, both your godfather, your parents, just to
Yeah.
go into that?
So my parents are Vietnamese.
Mm-hmm.
So they were born and were raised in Vietnam in the 50s and 60s. So I know then, even when I did visit back, it was like very country. So I was like, oh, like you guys grew up with this. Like, you know how to handle land, you know how to handle animals on land, you know how to like farm and grow plants and be a gardener at the same time. So I think ancestrally and probably innately they just knew how to like do it. So
Yeah.
I think when the opportunity arose of just them becoming chicken farmers, it was like, why not?
Wow.
Like, you know, more opportunity too, you know, in all aspects of it, for them and for me.
How long did you do that with the chicken?
We're still doing it to this day.
No way, really?
To this day.
Wow.
And I moved here. Well, my father moved first because my mom stayed in Connecticut for my brother to finish high school to go to college. Already graduated, like Paul, pack your bags, going to Georgia. So we first moved as a family, moved to Georgia in probably 06, 07.
Mm-hmm.
I moved in the summer of 2008.
Okay.
So since 2008 till now, still handling chickens.
Wow.
Yeah.
Interesting. What part of Georgia do they have the?
It's in Franklin County,
Okay.
but within that county is a small town called Carnesville, Georgia.
Okay.
Yeah. So if any of you guys know where Carnesville is, it's right next to Toccoa and Hartwell. So
Yeah.
if you know that pocket, I'm in that pocket. Yeah.
That's awesome. That's interesting that they're still doing that because, you know, commercial farming, it's hard. It's hard work. You know, you. I'm not have a commercial operation, and I still have to deal with chickens getting sick, dying. Trying to be more holistic in my approach to keep the chickens. And you can see my chickens are fluffy, are just like huge.
though.
They're thriving. In commercial farming, as much as you like that, you have to compromise a lot. There's no way that you're going to have thousands of chickens and not vaccinate them and antibiotics and things like that, because that is the nature of the beast. You have to produce in quantities then things happen, like with this bird flu that came, and hundreds of farmers had to cool their complete stock of chickens. And at one point, eggs were rising because there was not enough for the demand. There was not enough supply, and so eggs went from $2 to $12 a dozen. We're still selling them for $5 a dozen. If you want some eggs, hit me up. But $5 a dozen, people are like, how can you sell them so cheap? You can be making so much more money. At one point, I was like, your egg dealer. Like,
Carlos, you got some?
I got
Late
you.
night, like, I need some eggs, man. Is that cold? No, like I legit need eggs.
But it's hard to sustain, a business like that in a day where technology is advancing, the demand of these products. Through the pandemic, we saw how many people realize, man, we depend so much on the industrialized complex of producing food. Why not, be a little bit more independent on producing your own food? But I mean, it's hard. It's hard to, but that's not the only business that your parents have. Do they still have the nail salons or?
They do.
Wow.
Yeah. So
Hardworking family.
hardworking family, and learned a lot from that. Yeah, because like my parents, they escaped the Vietnam War, in the 70s and then moved to California in the 80s. So like them coming not knowing a lick of English, and then just trying to make it happen. Boom, got married, had one baby, two, three, four. So you're like, oh my God, and like for them to build a life that they're able to build now for them and for us, I'll call it a rags to riches story. Like, it's
Yeah.
really shows a lot of grit, you know. Um, and I see it in my perspective now being older. Because, I grew up in America. I grew up with them providing, and there was a sense of feeling like maybe I wasn't as grateful because I didn't acknowledge it. I didn't like see it. Now that I'm older and building my own life, just got married, and just trying to build a life for my own, and seeing that in life, you're just like, wow, like it takes a lot of work,
Yeah.
and they had a lot of other hurdles they had to jump over to get to this point, and they made it,
Now, how do you think that immigrant story from your family builds the character that you have? And I know that for me, my family, I was born in Colombia, so it's not just my background. I was born in Colombia until I was 18, living in Colombia, and then I immigrated outside of the country. But how do you think that experience, in a way, shaped who you are today?
I think when just now that you asked me that question, I'm just feeling a lot of like emotion, just kind of like, what did it teach me? And I think the first thing that I could always put it to is just like, as long as you have a direction and a goal where you want to go, like anything is achievable. And seeing my parents do that, like it's to anybody, it could feel unfathomable, even for us now as millennials, kind of being like, man, can I make that choice that my parents made to even escape? Like, can I do that now? Like,
Yeah.
and maybe, when things hit the fan, probably. But I think how it shaped me as a person is it shaped me to always wanting to be excellent, like to do my best at my job. And sometimes, life factors hits in and you're like, I kind of need a break. I don't want to, more or less like, let me let my foot off the gas pedal a little bit. Let me smell the roses, And for them, I feel like a lot of them are just like, no time, no need, gotta go. And that could also be like the mentality of Americans also, or maybe the US, how they built that, of like, you just gotta keep going. But I think it just kind of taught me how to work hard, get your hands dirty, roll up those sleeves, get into it, to be the best at it and focus. So I think for me, any endeavor that I went into, if I was really passionate about it, I wanted to be the best. I wanted to know it, no matter what job I had, any odd job. If I stepping into it, even if it was for a day, I'm gonna ask all the questions. How do you do that? Why do you do that? I need to know the process. So you ask me again, I could say it right back to you, and I could do it easy. You're like, man, I hired the right person for this. It's like, so I think it taught me a lot to sit, listen, and do.
That's great. Because at the end of the day, think about it, like they had to restart their lives multiple times, from Vietnam to the US, from California to Connecticut, from Connecticut to Georgia. And who knows, with the resilience that they develop, they can start their life anew. Even if they say, we're going to move back to Vietnam, just they will succeed because it's intrinsic, And I think that is a great deposit that you're right. When you're growing up, you don't value that as much until you start your own family and you're like, man, there's certain things that are imprinted in my DNA that I'm replicating, some lessons that I didn't think I was learning at the time, but now in the midst of the circumstances, this just comes forth. That little seed that was planted at one point They just need, it needs the right environment to just flourish, and you can see it. And that's when many times, when we're teenagers, we're like, oh, my dad, he doesn't know anything. And then you grow up and like, wow, my dad is amazing and he knows everything, dude. I'm gonna call him for advice, because now I realize like how much they know and how much they lived and struggled in.
Yeah. And also like just on a real personal level, how much they want to give that wisdom and passion, like, and being older now. So like, just trying to come from a place of curiosity, like all the time, like leaning into and asking like, why, like, because like, there's always a process, a line of thinking. And, like you said, like my, our parents made these choices. You made this choice to jump from one country to another, learn a language, do all this stuff. And it's like growing up, I'm like, oh, I'm Vietnamese. But it's like, do you know like why you're like here
Yeah.
speaking English? Like, do you know how that's even like happening? So like when I lean into the place of curiosity, asking questions like where are we from? And my parents kind of went through the whole story. I was like, whoa, that's our lineage. It's like, yes, because where we came from. And it's like, whoa, like I'm just
Yeah, it's amazing. My grandparents were farmers, not even in the main city. They're like, and now like their grandson is not that many generations after, is in the United States, a filmmaker. It's like, what? That's odd. That's odd.
yeah, because like I'm sure in every immigrant story you probably talk to, they want their kids to have some kind of prestigious job, be a doctor, work in finance, be a dentist, like medical, like whatever that is, right? And same thing. So what do you do? I make videos. It's like, for what? It's like, yeah,
Multiple things.
they're like for YouTube. I'm like, oh, more or less.
Yeah.
Like it's a lot to talk about. Like it's hard to understand what I do, but um, I'm changing the world in a way that I feel like I'm putting a lot of value in it.
Yeah.
And sometimes when they hear that, they're like, oh, okay. It's like, okay,
Yeah.
as long as you feel good about it. It's like, no, I love what I do. Like, so.
No, it's part of the stereotype of the immigrant story. That of course you come here and you want to be a doctor, you're gonna be a lawyer, you want to like get the real job. But how was it for you to get interested in filmmaking? When it's not one of those things that most immigrant parents want to see their kids working on.
Yeah, it's really interesting because I think this is probably like a long answer I'll say to this, right?
It's
But
fine.
it's so for me, how I got into filmmaking was a bunch of different things. So like before filmmaking, I have a background in dance.
Okay.
And that style of dance I did was like breakdancing and hip hop. So I was really like into that. And it's so important. Sometime after like high school, after graduation, I was like, man, I'm gonna be a professional dancer. Like that's what I'm gonna do. Like went to school for a little bit, was studying marketing, like general business, like, just didn't interest me. And then for me, I was like, I just wanna be out in the field. And I was getting uh called for auditioning. So I was like, I'm getting real life experience right now. So I left school, pursued dance heavily, did that for about 5 years. Did a bunch of auditions for shows, tours, like things like that. And then one day I just woke up and I was like, and this is when I trained a lot. And when you're younger, you think you're invincible, that your body is just like, I can do whatever.
Oh yeah.
I'm gonna take care of it. I didn't take care of it. So like I woke up just like in pain, and I was like, oh man, my body.
Sword.
Yeah, like my body hurts. And I was like, I need to find something different. But also I think the biggest thing too is like I want to find something. I think dance doesn't have value, but I want to like put something out there very meaningful for like the world, or be a part of something like a little bit bigger. And I think just because I had my own quarter life crisis, just feeling like, oh man, I left school. I always thought about like a corporate job, you're part of something bigger. And I was like, how do I be a part of something, but how do I stay creative? And then one day a friend of mine was like, "Hey, you want to help me shoot a wedding?" And I was like, "Oh my God, I've always wanted to like learn how to like film."
Okay.
But what's crazy because during the time that I was doing dance, one of my uh, dance mates he was shooting and editing our dance videos, and he would always make these cool videos. And I was like, "Oh, how are you doing this?" And like, so from there, I was just like asking a bunch of questions, filming weddings, just holding a camera, like not doing anything, just understanding like what the settings were. 'Cause I just saw numbers. I was like, "What does format mean?" Like, you know, like don't press that. It's like, okay, I'm sorry, I'm just clicking things. Like, don't touch it. So I learned a lot, and then and it's crazy because even kind of full circle answer back of like, what do I feel now, and what my parents taught me being immigrants was like full circle kind of coming back made me think of like, wow, I was able to dance and be a filmmaker because you guys built that life for me to make that choice that I more or less didn't have to go to school. Like, you know, you helped me see more opportunity in a very like creative level.
Yeah.
Like, you know, so I think that's something I feel now really grateful for.
Even more coming, your parents coming from a context of a government, a repressive government that didn't allow people to express any form of art or anything was, you know, forbidden for the most part. Now in your generation, it's just like free to express and explore and express yourself through the arts. That's pretty redemptive.
Yeah, you know, and then like where like career happiness is a really big thing for us right now. And then they're like, survival
Yeah.
is my happiness.
Yeah.
You know, that's like the strength. That's resilience. You know, arts wasn't a necessity. Like, you know. So it was like, oh man, like so now kind of coming back to it is just like, yeah, wow, like I'm grateful that I'm able to like sit here, have this conversation and talk about like, oh, I'm a filmmaker.
Yeah,
Like,
connecting the dots. And it reminds me, I don't know if you do remember, but I'm going to reveal my age. I used to love this documentary called Rise about dancers with tie-dyes, you know, the crumping and like.
yeah, because I remember I saw that, I watched that when I was, yeah, literally in high school.
Wow.
Just like in high school, it's like, man, like crump was getting really, really big during that time. And I was like, oh
And
my
the
God.
clowning. And I was like, this is a whole subculture here.
Whole culture. Because I was just learning breakdancing culture. And that's its own thing also. Like, you know, so like that, their language was very different and fresh for me than when crumping came involved. I was like, hold on. There's different worlds to this.
Yeah.
It's like, you know, and it's just crazy how like art could bring cultures together.
Yeah.
Like, you know, and unify it, you know, because like breakdancing started like 70s, 80s, then didn't really get traction till like 90s, early 2000s. And then that's just before YouTube,
Yeah.
you know, so everyone just had VHSs.
Yeah.
But like I had to go out to another country, film that, bring it back, and then produce tapes and sell those tapes. And people are like, oh, this is breakdancing. Like a lot more footwork they had to do back then than what we do now. And just seeing the arts bring people together. And like now it's a global thing, like, you know, so.
I mean, they have, you know, shows that are dedicated to judging, you know, people dancing and stuff. Like it's more mainstream. I do remember another show, the LDX, I think, no, LXD, the League of Extraordinary Dancers.
Yeah.
That was an amazing show because it merged the cinematic world and the dancing world in such a way that I haven't seen that being done before or after. I mean, you got movies like Jump and Step Up and things like that, but that was like a league on its own, you know?
It totally was. And I agree with you on that completely, because I think being in the dance world, seeing it on a highly produced level, that I was like, there are these breakdancers that I look up to. I've only seen you in like YouTube videos, VHSs, and I'm like, whoa, like I see you in a whole new light.
And acting and with lines and storylines.
Yeah, this whole thing. And it was just, I think it brought hope to me that like, oh, like I could do that at some point, either filming it or dancing in it. But I know I like this whole world. So how they conceptualized that was the underlying tone is like representation is huge
Okay.
in everything, you know, because it made me feel like, oh, like I I could do that. I saw someone that looked like me that is killing it in dance,
Right.
and like you're moving in a way that I would want to move, and you have lines like, oh, like that I could do that, you know. So
And sometimes they'll have these sequences where it was like a love story with just movement and dance. And you're like, it's as if they're talking, it's as if their movements have lines,
yeah,
but there's no dialogue. It's just like the way they're dancing is inviting, is romantic, is unique, and sometimes it will be like very um like warfare, you know, it's like very aggressive, and other times it will be very delicate, very unique, very unique. But when did you realize that not only it was something to explore, but it will become, you know, an industry that you could tap into and build your career on? Because that's a huge moment when you realize, hey, it's not only something that I'm exploring, and it's something that I'm gonna pursue, and I love the cinematography route. And
yeah. So when I decided to move from dance to cinematography, and this one I already had kind of experience holding a camera. I kind of knew how to set settings, how to um, more or less expose it first, then composition. Once I learned how to expose it, I was like, oh, maybe I think I could really like do this, like as like
a human tripod for now.
yeah, you know, like maybe I could do this like as like a side job and keep doing dance. On a financial level, like I remember I had a job that was like a week long, and at the end of the week, when I got my first paycheck, I was like, maybe
Maybe this is something to pursue.
maybe I should like look a little deeper into this. And then obviously at first it was like a financial thing, but then when I was able to meet more people, get on set more, learn a lot more of how movies worked and were shot, how shows were shot, um I was like, oh wow, this is like I didn't realize I've always been interested in this. And then how I kind of dove a little deeper was because I think I filmed like a dance video, and I was like, wait, I could still be around dance. But now that my dancing background influenced my camera movement on how I film. So like that kinetic energy came into this. So like before I was tangoing with one other person, I'm tangoing with the camera, and now this is working with this dancer in front of me. So like just like kind of like the movement, the feeling that it had, because you said like you watching it, the dancers were speaking a language, but somehow now when I like move a camera with the dancer, now that's speaking a whole different language, like, you know. So it's like kind of connecting all this together. I was like, oh man, I never really left dance, because there was a moment where I felt like I was kind of losing my identity a little bit. I'm like, man, I'm not this breakdancer anymore that like worked really hard to get these moves. Like I was like losing hair because I was head spinning too much, like, you know. And I was like, man, what am I doing? But no, like I'm still with it. So it made me realize, oh, I could dive deeper into this, and it kind of gave me a lot more like skill sets. It brought me what I was looking for, being a part of something bigger. I got to work with teams. I got to meet a lot of different people, and I got to work with tech. You know, I've always been a tinker when I was younger. I was like messing with things, you know. So I call filmmaking like adult Legos. So, you know, so it kind of made me feel like, oh, like I'm fulfilling that inner child part of myself, and then also just having fun.
Yeah, that's great the way you put it, because if you see it, blocking is actually a form of choreography. You know,
Hmm.
it's like how the actors are going to interact in this space, whether it be a set or outside, or, you know, how they're going to, as they're delivering their lines or not, you know, how that movement is going to happen. Then you, as a DP or as a camera operator, you need to kind of flow with that blocking. You know, many times, and I can tell when there is an experienced director and an inexperienced director based on their understanding of the blocking, even more than the understanding of the lighting or the composition or whatever. Is like, how are you going to use the space and move the scene within the space? That's the blocking. Even when I'm when it comes to narrative, most of the time before lighting for me is important to understand the blocking. Otherwise, I'm gonna be lighting something where they're not even gonna be there. You know.
Yeah, and, like you're like focusing on the wrong thing, like you know, and yeah, you're absolutely right with that. With the blocking, is like there's certain beats to it, how it moves.
Which is like a dance, like choreography.
Yeah, yeah, you know, and like either way, you're like, hey, this is my starting point, this is my ending point. No matter what, I'm gonna make my end point.
Yeah.
I'm gonna make it in the dance. You're like, I don't know how, I don't care how you get there. Make sure like you need to get there by the 8 count.
Yeah.
So with that kind of experience, I was like, oh, like I'm gonna make it.
Yeah.
I'm gonna make it.
Especially now where wonders are becoming so popular, that takes a lot of work on choreography to know, how things are going to move, the pacing and the timing. Otherwise, you're going to have to do it again and again and
And
again.
again, and just that memorization is a big thing too, is knowing that like, okay, like, and it's very nuanced movement too. And then the more technical, what lens are you shooting on? Like how tight are these certain things, or like I was pushing in and out, like all
What
this.
is your depth of field within that range?
Yeah.
How much distance you need to keep between the talent and yourself and the camera to maintain that. So you're not making it hard, because now everybody's like cinematic, wide open,
I'm shooting out of like a 1-2. You're like the AC's like, come on, man, like
Yeah.
like
You're only focusing on the nose and the eyes are already out of focus.
everything's out of like, unless this is a choice,
Yeah.
then we all have to live with it. But it's funny because like even now that I understand the technical, sometimes when I am talent in front of camera, like as talent, I could ask the right questions. Hey, just what focal length are you on? It's like, oh, okay, so my frame is kind of right here, and they're kind of like, oh yeah, like cool, like I just kind of know where you're focusing. Like so I know what to do. I know how to work smarter,
Yeah.
not harder. So it's like, yeah, it's like it helps me is cross platform.
Yeah.
How it can help me out in certain areas. But then also like when I direct or DP, like I could communicate a little bit better. Hey, this coming to marking. I want this action to happen here. But this is 4 steps to get to this point. Get to this point. It's like it helps the communication and the direction a lot easier for me. Yeah, because I remember there was a project I had to work on where it was a super wide, and we had to shoot the street, and it had like 6 talents walking in and out, and they're like, you guys all can't walk at once. So there's gonna be like 1, 2, 3, 4, like time it right. Like there are these beats. There are counts to this. So I think with that experience of dance, knowing how to work a stage, I was like, oh, okay, like I've been here before. And it goes back to, let me breathe through it. Let me not feel tense. Let me try to relax. Like I know how to do this. It's just different context.
Yeah.
And understanding that frame of reference, like, okay, it's just different context. Like, but same thing.
In the world of dance, there is, what you see on stage, on a performance, a concert, whatever. A lot of that is, very meticulously choreographed, months of rehearsing and training and doing so that you can do it perfect. But in the world of breakdancing, for example, there's a lot of improvisation, right? Same in filmmaking. When you're working on a narrative film, the rehearsals and things are more constrained within these parameters. But when it comes to documentary filmmaking, for example, it's almost like breakdancing, right? And we both gravitate in the world of documentary. How do you find, that passion for documentary as something unique that you feel identify with?
Yeah, I think documentaries, and I guess in correlation with like breakdancing, there's always a sense of like rawness kind of with that, and there's a lot of improv. But it'd be same thing with like dancing on stage too. It's almost like you have this routine, which is a plan. Then you miss a step, like you're gonna catch back up, but like make it look effortless.
Yeah.
Like was a part of it, right? And I think that's where a lot of the creative solutions kind of hit. But also kind of thinking of like the high pressure, know how to stay calm and like breathe through the motions of just kind of like, I know where I'm at, and how to retract really, really quick. Just like, no, okay, I'm now back in it.
Okay.
Like, so it's like with that into documentary, it's just like there is a plan that we kind of go in with, but kind of being like, hey, just kind of get them in their environment. And so you're like, oh, it's gonna be a lot of dancing. Oh yeah, it's the camera's gonna be moving. Kind of, figure it out. And is I think it's one of those things like once you kind of figure out, and then once you find that pocket, now you just kind of get in this flow state. And I think I kind of like that sense of chaos, a little bit controlled chaos.
Yeah.
And Breakdancing kind of has that because it's just like a lot of energy, um, a lot of movement, a lot of pieces to the environment. But also what kind of helps with that is like with breakdancing, when you have like a good team behind you, a crew that's hyping you up and like, no, we know this, like you got this, hyping you up. Same thing with the film crew is like, no, we got this, like we're in this together. It's kind of like, oh, like this is comfortable. This is comfortable. So I think just working with the team is
Mm.
always great.
I don't know if it's because I haven't done tons of narrative work, tons of feature films, as compared to the amount of documentary work that I've done. But I think I feel like I go and shoot a movie and good team and maybe I like the story, not always. But with documentaries, I just feel like there's something different that there's always a connection with the human story that leaves something engraved in my character and who I am. I don't know if that happens to you, and maybe you can share what's your favorite documentary project that you worked.
Yeah. Um, Now that you say that, it really makes me think about like, yeah, like documentaries and film kind of live in the same arena of like your look and like your style. But with like documentaries is like how you flow with it kind of brings out a personal style of like your own. Like, you know, of just like I'm working with something so real, but I was able to like put my flair on it and like make it really cinematic. And same with breakdancing is like I'm kind of going with it, but like no matter what, like you're gonna know who I am. You're gonna know my style. You know how I'm gonna get down. And I
Because
think,
you can be known as the lady who does the kangaroo breakdancing and stuff, or
oh man, yeah. That's a whole nother story. No, different podcast. We'll talk about that. But yeah, like you know, like you have your own like style, and I always feel like documentaries have like I don't know different twist to it. You kind of like put your own pizzazz to it, which I really like.
I mean, even if you think about it, Sir Roger Dickens comes from the world of documentaries,
Yeah.
and journalism. And it wasn't until he was, I believe in his 40s or something, that he transitioned into narrative film, and I mean, we're talking about Dickens. So,
Yeah.
but I think there is a nuance when you work in documentary that nurtures the way you approach narrative film and vice versa as well, for me, I remember working on Paper Children,
Hmm.
a documentary that touches about immigration and more especially not so much on the political side of immigration debate, but more like once you're here, what does it take to get legalized?
Hmm.
How is the system rigged in your favor or against you to bring your situation into something that is legal? Or something where you are able to stay here with documents, because I don't think necessarily makes you illegal, uh, but I think of immigration as a journey to where in that journey teaches you a lot. Well, this documentary Paper Children took us 3 years to make, and I found myself becoming friends with the family, and it opens up opportunities that were very unique. You don't always that amount have that amount of time to work on a documentary, but sometimes you're just very invested in the story. And crews most of the time are smaller, very intimate, very unique. Uh, from your experiences with documentary, which one is your favorite project that you worked on? Or at least one that has, leave like a mark on you.
Yeah, one that really stuck with me is I filmed one for PBS, worked with a great team. The name of that is A Brief History of the Future. And the premise of that documentary is we essentially traveled around the world in different countries, from Japan, India, Iceland, California. Like it almost feels like you name it, we probably been there.
Wow.
Like it was really interesting, and we interviewed uh, community leaders, tech leaders, economists, indigenous tribe chiefs, and speaking with them about how they're making better tomorrows. And one of the biggest things that really stuck with me for one of the interviews with the indigenous tribe chief was she mentioned for us to be here now, some generations before us, our people had to make decisions for us to survive now. And then what are we going to do for 7 generations ahead of us? You know, so that's how deep we think.
That's
And
deep.
I was like, kind of shifted my paradigm. So in the sense of that, it shook me a little bit to where I was like, okay, like, wow, I felt a lot of purpose,
Wow.
you know, and feeling from that. And it left the mark on me. It was really fun.
Yeah.
A lot of great travel. And like, the reason I love documentaries too is I always say it's free education. Like, you know, like you're experiencing real life stories, real experiences, and you're getting real thoughts and feelings. And the access you get is just absolutely like unfathomable sometimes. You're like, I can't believe I'm here. Like, yeah, like be we were going to fly up to like the almost to the border of Canada, but then our flight got canceled, so we had to drive 10 hours up to make the shoot, and then drive 10 hours back down to fly out to the Bahamas for the next thing. You know, so you're like, what? So like, I had to pack 2 different types of like clothes, but then like just a lot of like perseverance, how to like come into that. Yeah, that documentary really left a mark on me in the topics that we talked about and got to experience. And again, we like you mentioned, when you're kind of working in film and documentary, and you don't remember a lot of what you're filming. A moment like that, I realized that I'm grateful that I'm able to be here. So every time I had a interview, no matter how tired I was, I really tried to like lean in and like listen. Really try to listen. The hard thing is that you want to take notes when you're cam op and you're just kind of like, oh man, I guess I'll just come back to this interview.
That's when your AI glasses start taking notes.
I'm gonna need that, you know. So yeah, it just taught me a lot. And just feel like, man, like I want more of this. This really like fulfilled me. But then I also done other documentaries. I was just like different and like, what is this? But I'm glad to be here.
No, and I watched the project with my kids, and I thought that was remarkable. Your work was exquisite, to say the least. I love how, the story of the future in different ways. It was like not only technology, because you think about the future and you kind of associate it with technology, but some of the episodes were more about the bio technologies of the future, and the study of cultures for the future. And it was just not based on technology for the future. It's like humankind moving towards the future and how we got here and what could happen in the future, and it wasn't very doom and gloom. It's like, oh, we're just going down the hole.
On the whole here,
It was very hopeful, like what you said, very real, but at the same time very hopeful. There are things that are happening now that have the potential to make the future of humankind better. So amazing project. My kids loved it, and sometimes they get tired watching documentaries with me, but they loved it a lot. So I agree. It's an amazing project. And I got to see not only your skills, but also kind of like the diversity, because you had like 360 cameras and like a bunch of like different small little setups and bigger setups, and it was a small crew for what I understand. And when you see it, it looks like bigger than life, bigger than what it really is.
Yeah, it was a lot. It was and I think that's what made it really fun, like in the technical aspect of it, because I was primarily a C cam operator, so like operated camera, either that's easy rig or tripod. But then I had to do gimbal operating, but we had to stay really tight. So it was a FX3 on a gimbal with rehoused Canon FD lenses. Like, yeah, so like how are we gonna build that?
Yeah.
Like, is the weight gonna be an issue? So it was just like a lot of like
And those are manual lenses. So
Manual lenses.
yeah.
Yeah, so it was just like we had to think about like just the mad scientist about it, like how we're gonna build this.
And that camera doesn't have internal NDs, right?
No internal this way. We had
So that's another thing, yeah.
The director wanted and the DP wanted a Teradek on it, wireless feed. So you're like, that has to be a part of it. But then how are we gonna power all that? Oh, with a gold mount. You're like, how are we gonna put that on there now? So like a lot of things is kind of looking up like just like how are you gonna do this? How are you gonna do this? Building the list out and just building that.
Did you use a ring or like the tilt ring?
No,
or
it was just single handed. Like
so you put the battery in the bottom, or how do you?
yeah, so actually at the time for this project, the newest gimbal was the RS3 Pro.
Yeah.
So Tilta made a third-party plate that you're able to put on the side of the gimbal, but then on the bottom of it, where essentially, technically, if you're familiar with the Ronin RS3 Pro, they have the Raven Eye, but there's a different plate. You can actually put a V mount or a gold mount. So I bought that just to put a gold mount under it, and then bada bing, bada boom.
Interesting.
So that was
but still the challenge there is being able to balance that.
Everything, yeah. And I made it happen.
Changing the lens, Ray-Ban is also.
Yeah, it was crazy. It was like I was able to balance 100mm on it. Yeah.
Wow.
But the shots were
and your arms were like
yeah, but because of that, like now, like I'm so comfortable opping the gimbal single-handedly. Like, it's just like this is where I'm just very comfortable handling.
So, what do you think about the Ronin 4D as an alternative or actually replacement of some of those gimbal setups?
It's really interesting.
Okay,
there's pros and cons to each one, right? Yes, I think it could be a good replacement if you want an FX6 on a gimbal, because the FX3 doesn't have internal NDs, but the 140 has all flavors of NDs from point
it's a great range of NDs.
NDs, you know,
and they're actually pretty clean. They don't have a lot of AR contamination as well.
Yeah, no color shifting.
Yeah,
it's pretty good.
Yeah.
So in that aspect or that regard, you're like, man, like, you know, I get 6 or even 8K. That's pretty good.
Yeah.
You know, FX3 is still full frame, but you're like, man, I could kind of like, with FX3, I have to take the camera off, take the lens off, the battery off, then pack the gimbal a different way. It's like 4 different parts that I have to like make sure everything's together. As a Ronin 4D, I could just throw it in the case.
Yeah.
Like you're pretty good to go.
And with one button, you can kill the gimbals, you know, motors of it. And then just go on like a regular handheld mode and then enable the gimbals again. I don't think the Z-axis neck is that remarkable. Or maybe I haven't used it much in that feature, but it's also something interesting, something unique.
Yeah, and I totally agree with that too, because like, you know, with the FX on a gimbal, like you have no Z-axis. You are the Z-axis.
Yeah.
So it was like, for me, it's just
the ninja walk.
Yeah, for me, I'm like, oh man, you gotta work on your walk. You said you just gotta get stronger. So with the Ronin 40, I actually don't really use the Z-axis.
Okay.
Yeah, I kind of just leave it the way it is because it feels the most natural. You have the Z-axis, it's just kind of like
too much.
It feels like, is there like a warp stabilizer on this?
Really?
Why is it I don't know. For me, it just feels different. It doesn't feel like it's me opping. So like I don't really use it. But the last, I don't want to say con, but waiting for it, it's just like, you know, with FX3 on the gimbal, I could use a Canon FD pre-house, a bigger lens. I want that lens on the 40, but the gimbal can't take it.
You could take it if you have the support. You know?
But like, you know, then at that point you're like, oh, just throw that on FX6 and
you're right.
Call it a, or even a Venice. Like, you know, but we also shot the Dotcon too, so it's just like at that point, if I'm not using the gimbal.
And then the Venice has the color profile, and you know, you live within that ecosystem of the Sony cameras. You know, bringing the 4D just brings like other characteristics to play with.
Characteristics, and I think the Ronin 4D is a great camera if you're like, hey, we want really good footage, like high quality footage, but it needs to be on a gimbal. But then like you can't bring a lot of other things with you. Like you have to be a really small package because like, you know, you're like, okay, like what does that look like? Because the last doc I worked on, the DP opted to use a Ronin 4D because he was like, hey, we don't have a lot of space to bring in a lot of extra gear like NDs, a matte box.
Mm-hmm.
Size of the lenses are actually a little smaller. You need something with autofocus because you won't have an AC pulling focus for you.
Yeah, so
like,
the lighter helps, yeah.
Yeah, you're like, oh, okay. So we're like thinking, and he's like, are you okay with the 4D? And I was like, oh, I've actually wanted to try it, So like the lenses, the lens choices are a little slimmer
Yes, you're right.
compared to like using like an FX3 on a gimbal.
Yeah.
So in that regard, like the 140 has its place in the market.
Okay.
I want to say it won't replace anything, but it definitely has a place if you're familiar with it and you're open to understanding what that place is and playing with it. Because for me, I was like, oh, just give me the gimbal and FX3. I'm really comfortable with that. Like,
Okay.
I'm really comfortable with that. Now the 40, I'm like, oh, I'm also comfortable with that camera now too.
Cool.
Use it a handful of times and I love that camera.
I feel like we just fall into a rabbit hole of like talking tech.
All the time.
Talking dirty.
You just can't get away from it. Like, I love talking shop.
Yeah.
Because, like, it's the mad scientist in us.
Yeah.
Like, how do we get the best image? But how do we do it in a way that's like, if I'm by myself, how can I still execute? There's this camera, there's this lens, da 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 da.
Yeah, and I can't even talk about the number of times where people are like, oh, man, your images are so great. That camera must be amazing. Like, man, no wonder why your images look so good. That camera looks awesome. And you're like, okay,
It's a nice camera.
Yeah.
It's a real nice camera.
As if it's just the camera, not the person behind the camera who is using the technology in order to tell the story, to, in a way, kind of craft through the image, how it makes you feel and how you communicate a message. But again, stepping away from the tech, your wife is also a creative. And
yes.
I'm like super shift right here. But I'm curious about how you met your wife and how you guys started working together and came out to a point like, hey, we're gonna build a life together and own a company together. And like that's because not every family is composed of two people that are in the same field and creatives and stuff like that. So I'd love to hear your story.
Yeah, it's I guess I'll try to condense it if we can. So my wife and I first met when we were in our transition period. Me from going from dancer to filmmaker. So we met during an audition for a nonprofit we both used to work in, and that nonprofit's name was called Collaboration. And they started out in LA, but then they built 14 different chapters, and Atlanta was one of them. So that's also where I met some of my closest friends, was through Collaboration. And this platform was a platform for Asian American artists to showcase their artistry. Either that's spoken word, music, dance, it was like a very big talent show.
Cool.
We had judges come out.
Really?
Some reputable. It's been years since I can't remember the names, but she was a volunteer for that organization, and she went to, at the time, she was going to school at Georgia Tech studying materials engineering, and she was a Georgia Tech rep to spread the word of collaboration. And me as a dancer, I competed in Collaboration, but then when I transitioned into film, one of my friends was the lead filmmaker for Collaboration, and I was like, I kind of want to get into it. Like, hey man, are you guys accepting volunteers? You're like, yeah, come on, volunteer with us, And then they're like, I want to learn filmmaking, so I kind of learned under him a little bit. So he kind of taught me. And then my wife, her name is Sharon. She was kind of doing BTS photography a little bit. She had a little Rebel T3 with a nifty 50.
Yeah. Combo.
Old faithful, man.
Yeah.
And it was funny because that's when I was learning cameras. I was barely a human tripod then. I was just kind of looking.
And she also knew how to get the blurry background.
When she did it, I was like, oh my God, you got the blurry background. How'd you do that? It just blew my mind. And I was like, you're a wizard. You're a genius at how to do this. you know. So she taught me a little bit, and then yeah, we met there. Um, she was graduating. We all hung out, and then I asked for her number. So, you know,
Your
just
digits.
just trying to like, hey, like, but we connected through a song, because I was kind of reciting the lyrics, and she
Really?
jumped in, and I was like,
Oh, I know that.
yeah, she was like, oh snap.
What
Like,
song was it?
it was the artist, Childish Gambino,
Oh yeah,
formerly Donald Glover,
yeah.
um, and it was on his Because the Internet album. It was a song 3005 to the T.
There you go.
Yeah, I remember that, and we connected, and I was like, whoa, like, and then she was like, I'm a huge fan, and I was like, man, like this album's great. We kind of like just connected over that, and then started dating, and then together for 10 years,
Wow.
you know. Um, it's crazy because during the transition time, I was going from dance to filmmaking, and for her, she was graduating from Georgia Tech with materials engineering, and she was like, I want to do music.
Hmm.
And I was like, whoa, like, yeah. She's like, yeah, like, I think I want to DJ. I was like, totally. I'm super supportive. I was like, yo, like, do the arts, anything with the arts, like, I'm for it. Let's go.
Hmm.
I'm also trying to figure it out. So like we met at that time and just supported each other. And then now she's a very successful DJ. Did a lot of music. Um, and her style of music is open format. So like we always call it like world music. So anything that kind of like just
Even reggaeton.
reggaeton. I know she plays some Brazilian music, was
So
really, really neat.
yeah,
Yeah, anything that just sounds good. It's
awesome.
new. It's I guess just new to the ear. Like, oh, this is like I like it. So she's very experimentative with a lot of her music too. But just like us and with our images, like I want to try different angles. I want to do all of this, because different filmmakers around the world have different styles.
Yeah.
They have their shot cards. So, ooh, I want to try that. So like I feel like we help each other out in that arena. And then she was always a visual artist too, because she did photography. She did a little bit of Photoshop. Um, Through the years of working on her own personal brand, she learned graphic design. So kind of like learn how to build flyers, like all this. Then when COVID hit, events kind of stopped
Yeah.
like abruptly. So like her line of work was halted for a little bit, and so she was like, let me really dive deep into film. So from there, then she built the skill set and able to direct, creative direct, produce. So like now she has a skill set of production. So all that to say is like I'm grateful for her. She is highly talented. I learned a lot from her. She also had like a corporate job, so like she taught me of like systemizing a business. Like, hey, this is how it needs to look and be presented. So I wouldn't be here without her.
Wow.
Like my skill set, the way I think, what I do. So it's like a big part of my life and who I am as Paul.
Yeah.
You know.
That's great to hear because I mean, I don't know. Often of you see creatives when they are in a relationship like that, just clashing of ideas. And it seems like in your case, I'm pretty sure there's also
Yeah.
things like that, but a lot of that is like I'm humble enough to learn from this person and open myself, and so that creates a bond. That creates this unique way of interacting, and the fact that you're not just a freelancer. With her help, you develop a company. You have people that you hire. You have projects that are corporate and commercial that run as a business and not just as a dancer who happened to be a filmmaker.
Yeah.
So that's very unique to see how you complementing each other.
Yeah. And yes, there's always ebbs and flows
Mm.
in our collaboration with us working together. Um, I think it's just learning where our skill sets lie, lean into that, and understanding of like we're learning other parts of what each other are doing too, to work on the flow a little bit better, and knowing how to pick up each other in those areas too, you know, not putting it all on, not putting the whole mental load of like producing and directing, the creative direction and like all this stuff, and her not feeling like, oh, like, because she also knows a little bit of cameras too.
Okay.
You know, she knows how to operate, she knows like certain lenses, and us being willing to like listen to each other in those processes too, so we know what we're talking about. So even if it's client facing stuff, I could also tackle a little bit of that, you
Yeah.
know. um and with that, from each other, we learned a lot of like business acquisition, like gear acquisition, just like all those things that we is easier to make decisions together, you know. Yes, there are times that we're kind of like, there is a little bit of friction, but it's like only on a creative level. When it gets to like logistics, like we could really like, okay, like we understand each other in like those certain areas. So yeah, just learning how to stay calm, breathe through it, like this isn't the end of the world, like,
Yeah.
you know. So kind of move on. And we move well. I say we complement each other a lot. Yeah, because for me, I'm a creative first. So I'm like, we could do this, we could do that. Hold on, wait. What if we did this? And she's like, let's, I love it. I love the energy. Let's like, let's make it realistic. I'm like, all right. What's feasible? And she helps me, she brings me back to reality
That's great.
a lot of time. And I think that's like a good compliment to have, you know. Sometimes I get a little too heady. So I'm learning to be like a little more logic. Yeah.
It seems like a recurring uh, feature in your story, leitmotif, what we say in the filmmaking lingo, is trying to tap into different things, no matter what they are. Learn from different stuff. You can say almost like master of none, kind of, you know, a lot of talents, a lot of things. I'm myself, you know, learning how to farm and learning how to process wood and learning how to build. And I think is that curiosity. You know, I'm not a full farmer or full-time beekeeper or, you know, but I try to get into those things that sometimes that brings about very interesting and unique conversation opportunities. Sometimes it's about traveling and learning a little bit of Portuguese or a little bit of Italian or tiny bit of French so that you can start a conversation. And I don't know, it's almost like something intrinsic of that openness to the unknown, into the new. And I can see that in you, you know, as a leitmotif, like you know how to do this and that and try this and dance and merge those things. Would you say that that is a way to nurture your creativity rather than say, okay, this is my path. I'm only going to focus on this and I'm not going to try anything else? Or would you say that sometimes it can become a distraction to be really good and excellent at something in particular and be known for that alone?
Ooh, yeah, that's a good question. I feel like is a fine line between the two. Um, because I do believe in like lean in lean into your skill set and do what you know. Like, you know, there's a very strong point in that. That's why like DPs are in their position, because like, oh, you know a lot about how to capture an image and compose it. Like that's your bag. You know exactly how to do that. Um, but being curious about other areas helps the process, you know. So I feel like understanding, again, this is where like ego, all this stuff, like I want to do all of it. We all want to be the guy. We all want to be able to do everything. I can do everything, but it's like, you know, like trusting your team that you bring
Mm.
on. You know, it's good to know the departments, knowing what needs to be had. So like when you vet your team knows like, oh, this guy knows his stuff. He's not just a guy who presses record.
Yeah.
Like he knows his lenses too. Not just, I want this. Someone get that for me. You know, I'm sure we come across people just like, do you know what
Yeah.
happening? Like it's a very technical thing. So like,
It's noon, you know, the sun is right at top of your head, and you want like a sunset look.
it's like,
Yeah,
sir, like I don't know how, like we need to move the shot to a different day, like, you know. So it's like understanding the process of everything, of different like roles, departments is like, you know, I could grip a little bit. I'm not a gaffer or a key grip in any capacity, but like I know a little bit to where like I know how to now I know those departments and how long it takes to where like I could have this production flow a little smoother. I give my team time because I'm for the team first. So um, coming to a place of curiosity and asking those questions could help you out a lot. But yes, I do feel like not staying in one lane is not really my thing also because I just don't like being pigeonholed. But sometimes it's good because it's like, just that's what you're really good at. That's what, again, that's why I have a team. And with that, I realized that like if something I want to be really good at is understanding that part of knowing that like if I could trust my team and bring on the right people, then at that point I'm not managing anymore. I'm collaborating with you guys. And I think that's what's really important in the creative field is like just collaborating, learning new things. So yes, I'm bringing a gaffer who's an actual gaffer who has a lot of experience. So you can actually teach me more things because I know cameras, I know lenses, I know certain ways of like, oh, like how to build a camera, how to like streamline the cable management. Like, oh, this is easy, but how you rig up that light and why is the source it has and how much spread it has and the technicals of it is like, there's a reason for that. So it's like, I'm not managing anymore. I just need how to do it. You're going to do it. But then now we're collaborating. Okay, cool. This is great. His light's doing this. What if we did it this way? Is that something that we could work out? Now we're collaborating. Now we're talking. Now I'm stepping into curiosity. I'm asking questions I've always wanted to ask. I just didn't know how to get the answer. And the way you get answer is on set experience.
At one point in our conversation, you did mention that through this documentary, you met this person who was kind of like the head of an indigenous group, right? And that she talked about, or like this person talked about the legacy and whatever we're doing now that is going to impact the next generation. And although you guys don't have kids yet, but what is your goal and what do you think is going to be your legacy and your impact in the next generation, just like your parents had with you?
Even to this point, I'm still just like figuring that out because even right now, I think in my creative endeavor now in filmmaking, I'm trying to understand like what my voice is. And if I had to think of something right now, what you just said, the first thing that came to mind for me, for my legacy, would to show my kids like what my parents always taught me, like you could pursue whatever you want. There's like no boundaries, there's nothing stopping you. Spearhead it, and be the best at it. Learn. Just keep learning and just do. So like if there's anything I want to make sure like my kids see would be, like our parents were doers. They just did it and they made it happen, and I want to give them that same kind of passion and hard work. And legacy is really just, I don't know, just showing that like, no, like I am my own person. Like, like there's a construct that is around us, but like it doesn't have to mold you to that. Like you could be your own person and be a full support of that. Yeah.
That's cool. That's awesome. I'm pretty sure that a lot of people will identify with your story, and they might want to say, hey, I want to be in touch with Paul. I want to do a dance battle or something like that.
Man, dance battle me, man. Like I haven't done that in a while. So uh
But how will people get in touch with you? Maybe on the socials. Like, what's the best way to connect with Paul?
yeah, to connect with me, you could contact me if it's work related. You could totally contact me through my business Instagram, which is poly_studio. You could reach me on my email, which is polystudioproductions@gmail.com. Shoot away.
Yeah.
Ask the questions, want to connect, grab some coffee, talk about a project. Like,
Yeah.
I love talking shop. I have a lot of new gear. Let's talk gear.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
yeah. I'm a very open book. I try to be as open as I can and just share as much knowledge as I can if you're willing to listen, because I'll talk your ear off.
Yeah. And we're working together on a project that's hopefully starting a new iteration soon. Um, but what is in your future? I know that you're going beyond just the PM projects and not only directing, but now your company is also like creating stuff. Like we go through these motions of like we're creating content for other people a lot, and I see a lot of my friends transitioning to like, let me tell my own stories.
Yeah.
Let me dive into like investing in my own story. So what's in the future for you guys?
Mm, yeah. Right now, there's a couple things we like talked about, and it's always taking that first step, right?
Mm.
Like the hardest thing we've I've realized, or talking to with my friend group, I'll call them my support group. That I've learned is like 0 to 1 is always the most difficult, but 1 to 100 is the easiest. Just that first step moving forward. Like, what is it going to take to push into that? Because yeah, I've always thought about my own personal story, my lineage, that where I come from. I talked about, because even hearing some of those stories, I'm like, man, like this needs to be documented. You know, um, just to share something personal. Like my father passed away 13 years ago, and he was the mastermind to the escape of my whole family coming to America, or majority of them. So all of my cousins now who are doctors, like they were on that boat with my dad in Vietnam. So like that's something that's just like, man, like seeing this now, kind of being like, wow, like I- he's not here for me to ask that question. So it's kind of like, oh, like, but my rest of my family around it who are on the boat are still around. It's like, oh, I have to like, I should do something with that, and just taking that first step is just kind of always like, what is it going to be about? But as a creative, you just think about, oh, what is it going to be about? Like, it doesn't have to be too deep. Just
Yeah.
capture the interviews first and then
Yeah.
see what you want to do with it. But I don't know. As of right now, I think I'm just really focused on my married life.
Okay.
And then going from there, what we could build together. Yeah. So had some things kind of like we built some decks, built some
Okay.
decks out. This looks good. It's just like, just see what we want to do with it. Hopefully, with the future, you'll see our names on the big screen.
That's awesome. And I think this is one of the main takeaways in our conversation, at least during this time that we share, is the fact that for good stories, you don't always have to look beyond what's inside of you, inside of your lineage or your family. Many times we try to find the next big story outside when the next big story could be inside of us. And can be looking into our heritage in our family, what they did. Those stories are great enough to move us, and they can move other people as well.
I totally agree with that. You're absolutely right.
And
And, just it doesn't have to be so out there.
yeah,
In the real, like you said, looking inside is the most authentic,
yeah,
you know, just how do you want to write that story? So just,
definitely.
yeah, try to be genuine, authentic about it. Like, how do we go about it? And you're right. It is within us.
Awesome. Well, thank you, Paul, for coming, accepting this invitation. It was hard to get you finally, but
Yeah, so no, yeah, thanks for having me. I'm really happy to be here. I didn't really know what I was gonna say or what to expect, but you made it really comfortable and easy for me to
yeah,
just talk.
yeah,
Good therapy.
awesome. Yeah, part of the support group, and I'm pretty sure this is a very valuable conversation for us. And if you find value on these conversations, this story, stay tuned for the next episode of Beyond the Scene. Share with other people so more can know what happens beyond what we do in the film, in the creative industry. I'll see you in the next episode of Beyond the Scenes.